This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
With the draft being over, we now see how the roster is set up for this year, and we can see if there are holes on this roster that need to be filled in, if they can possibly be filled in at an affordable number with players that make a ton of sense for the Cleveland Browns. I think one of the most obvious places you're going to see a hole on this team right now is wide receiver. I think that's the one that screams the loudest. I know there's a lot of talk about the offensive line. I don't think the offensive line really belongs in this list because the Browns have made moves on the offensive line. Not the sexiest move, but it's the offensive line. It's never going to be super sexy. The Browns have brought in a veteran swing tackle backup guy in Cornelius Lucas. That's a huge upgrade to what they had as their swing last year in James Hudson. And they brought in Tevin Jenkins to possibly play guard, more than likely play one of the tackle positions, and possibly start for you if he's healthy. I think he's a starting quality player for you. You add in that you can fill in whatever days he misses with DeJuan Jones playing at left tackle. And then if you have worries about Jack Conklin staying healthy, that's what Cornelius Lucas is there for. So you got the offensive line, at least for this year, on a temporary basis, pretty sold up. Now, wide receiver, on the other hand, not as sold up, right? You have Jerry Jeudy, who you feel good about, had a great year last year. Not sure if he's a number one, but he's in a position right now to where he's going to be a number one wide receiver. And then you have Cedric Tillman, who you're enthusiastic about after a pretty strong mid part of the season after the Amari Cooper trade, where he basically, I think, in the very few games that he played, outgained what Amari Cooper did for the Buffalo Bills in the regular season. So there's that, right? So you have two young wide receivers under contract for a little while that you feel pretty okay about. But then you start looking at the rest of this wide receiver room, and that's when things start to get a little bit more questionable. Deontay Johnson is not anybody who should be relied on for anything in 2025. This is somebody who was traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers last offseason, cut from the, what team was it? The Panthers had traded for him. When they traded from the Panthers to the Ravens, then cut from the Ravens, picked up by the Houston Texans, picked up again by the Baltimore Ravens, and then let go of, and now he's in Cleveland. Nothing about the last 12 months for Deontay Johnson screams we should be confident in him. And then after Deontay Johnson, you get into some real unreliable names. We're talking about a fifth-round second-year player, although I like him, right? He's still a fifth-round second-year player. Probably shouldn't be in the running to be your wide receiver 3 in Jamari Thrash. David Bell, who's fine, but also limited athletically, and that's been a huge part of the reason he's not been able to stick on as a consistent rotational piece for the Cleveland Browns. And then you're like Michael Woods. It's like Michael Woods probably not cracking your rotation, but it's not crazy to think that he could be wide receiver 3 right now. So regardless of what you think about Deontay Johnson, if you think that bet's going to work out, what you think of Jerry Jeudy, what you think of Cedric Tillman, you probably need another wide receiver. I would prefer a veteran wide receiver, but you probably need another wide receiver. 2 guys come to mind, really 3. Amari Cooper, but it seems like that ship has sailed. And to be fair, the Browns wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, did become significantly more productive once Amari Cooper was gone. So bringing him back in might be a step back for this wide receiver room. And it's just hard to convince somebody who had one role for your organization not too long ago, which was Amari Cooper was the number one receiver for the Browns, to take such a lesser role, which is, hey, come be a rotational guy for us, especially when you're not a championship contender. Keenan Allen might make sense. He's at that part of his career where that's really what he's doing. He's available. Makes sense. Tyler Boyd, I think, would be a signing that makes a ton of sense. A guy who's on the younger side of the people in this conversation, but does need an opportunity for a bounce back, where Keenan Allen might want to use or have his services be used for a more contending team or a team closer to winning a championship because he's also at the tail end of his career. Somebody like Tyler Boyd has plenty of years left on his career and wants to rejuvenate his career, and maybe Cleveland could be a good place to rejuvenate his career because they're not a ton of touches to be had, to be honest with you. I don't think the Browns are going to be throwing the ball that much this season, but there is an opportunity to be in a more featured role in Cleveland than he would be anywhere else. So I wouldn't be mad if they brought in Tyler Boyd. So I think maybe that makes sense for the Cleveland Browns. You know, he's coming off a really bad stint with the Tennessee Titans. He's not making much money. He's 30 years old. He's from the Midwestern area, so maybe a return here might make some sense. All right, let's move on to running back. What free agent running back would I like the Cleveland Browns to bring in? Nick Chubb. It's going to be Nick Chubb. It's always going to be Nick Chubb. I would love it if we brought back Nick Chubb, and the sooner we could do it, the better. Nick Chubb is a huge piece to the core culture of this team. Nick Chubb. And this isn't, let me make something clear here too, because I know when I say Nick Chubb is huge to the team culture, people going to get on that Jarvis Landry, right? And I think people made too much of how much Jarvis Landry built the culture in Cleveland, right? Jarvis Landry was a solid player, a very loud player, and a player who had some great moments on Mike Dubs, and was a good leader for the Cleveland Browns while he was here, but he wasn't a culture builder. He wasn't that good of a football player. He's a really solid player. Nick Chubb is different. Nick Chubb is one of the three people you think of when you close your eyes and think of the Cleveland Browns. When these kids are getting drafted and they're like, I'm going to Cleveland, who plays on Cleveland? A lot of people are going to Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, right? That's Cleveland, right? That's different than Jarvis Landry, right? So I know it sounds similar to some of the arguments that people kind of reach for with Jarvis, but understand Nick Chubb's not reaching. Nick Chubb is a foundational Cleveland Brown, somebody who it would legitimately feel weird to see in another jersey, and somebody who even NFL fans who aren't Browns fans would look at and be like, ugh, that don't feel right at all, seeing him outside of Cleveland Browns uniform. He just feels like a Cleveland Brown. It'd be like seeing Ray Lewis in a Dolphins jersey, or that one time you got to see Ed Reed in a Jets jersey, or whenever you see Aaron Rodgers walking around in whatever fit he gonna be wearing this year, probably Pittsburgh colors, right? Just don't look right. That is to the extent that Nick Chubb is a Cleveland Brown. So it's not the same thing as a Jarvis Landry. It is much deeper than that, right? He is a legend, a Cleveland Browns legend. He will be somebody whose legacy with the Cleveland Browns will last much longer than his playing days. Somebody who, if you have a young kid right now, will know who Nick Chubb is, right? That's how deep it runs with him. Would love to keep him here in Cleveland. And look, I think there's some upside to him as a player as well. I know we talk about a lot of legacy shit with Nick Chubb, and it makes it seem like there's no upside with him as a player, but there is still. I think if he gets a full year back, he can get back into this offense, something he's very familiar with, and maybe not be Nick Chubb of 2021 or 2019 or what he was early in his career, but still be a productive, efficient 1,000-yard running back that you can use in tandem with Quincy Junkins and Dylan Sampson and have a really strong run game that can also create explosives out the backfield. I think you can get that with Nick Chubb, and I wouldn't take that for granted. All those things make a ton of sense. Bring me back Nick Chubb. I'd be excited about it. Justin Simmons. The Browns need a safety. Justin Simmons plays free safety. He's not very good at it anymore, but you would at least feel better about Ronnie Hickman if he beats out Justin Simmons in training camp. So that's kind of what Justin's purpose would be here in Cleveland. Can Ronnie Hickman beat you out? If Ronnie Hickman beats you out, then cool, we feel great. Maybe we cut Justin Simmons and let him go somewhere else. But if Ronnie Hickman does not beat him out, then okay, we just keep Justin Simmons, right? He's not the player he used to be by far, but you just want a litmus test there for Ronnie Hickman if you're going to go all the way with him. Because also, if you start Ronnie Hickman this year, you're probably going to sign him to an extension later on in the year. Well, not later on this year. You got a year till you have to do it. But, you're going to have to start thinking about extension with Ronnie Hickman. You want to be sure about that. Beating out a veteran like Justin Simmons will make you a lot more sure about that. If you don't want to start Ronnie Hickman, then you got to bring in somebody like Julian Blackmon to take the job from him. And then the last position, I think a player or type of player the Browns need to sign, and I'm not advocating the Browns sign a kicker until after the UFL season is over for specific reasons, but the Browns do need to sign a kicker. They need to have a real competition at the kicker position this training camp. Dustin Hopkins, his outings last year, while they didn't deserve him being fired from his job because the Browns were just sorry at that point, he does deserve to be, what would they call it? Primaried. He deserves to be primary. We got to primary Dustin Hopkins in training camp. Bring in like 3 people to kick against him, and he's got to outkick these dudes because he was completely unreliable last year. Maybe it was just a down year. Maybe it's the start of something worse. But yeah, you got to do something to make sure Dustin Hopkins still got it. My theory, just bring in the best kickers from the UFL. Right? Those are professional kickers, guys who understand how lonely that position is at the next level and how easy it is to get fired at the next level. They're used to dealing with that professional level pressure, and these guys have a good hit rate in the NFL. The UFL kicker, the NFL kicker pipeline, or spring football kicker, the NFL kicker pipeline, it's pretty high, right? So, yeah, once the UFL season is over, I would heavily recommend the Cleveland Browns try to raid the UFL for their best kicking talent to get somebody reliable there to compete with Dustin Hopkins. But those are the guys I want to bring in. That's the free agents that I think the Browns could bring in the post-draft. Let me know what you would think about this list in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.